All right, guys. So here I'm with Eric, and we're gonna talk about. Eric went through something like crazy, and I want to learn from him. So that's what this is, and I want to record it so hopefully other people can learn from your experience and hopefully put things in perspective and focus more on what matters. But so first, let's go. I just want a timeline of the story and how it happened, and so let me. I think it started. You were on a trip in Mexico.
Just after, yeah.
Just after trip to Mexico, and you had like a spot or something on your arm.
Yep, I've always had a freckle there, and it was a bigger freckle, but every time I would get it checked out, it was nothing.
Mm-hmm. So you'd had it checked out in the past before? Oh, really?
Yeah, at University Health, which, no fault to them, but they just said it was just a skin growth. I could pick at it, and it would just go away.
Right.
Apparently picking at it was one of the worst things I could do.
Really?
Yeah, and so shortly after that, Miranda Schmidt, one of the members here, called me out and said, "You need to get that checked out. It's disgusting."
Mm-hmm.
And she could tell I was self-conscious about it, so I called in, and the very same day that I called in, I woke up and I had like a pretty tender pain in my armpit.
Mm-hmm.
And so they got me into dermatology same day, and from there they did a local excision, so it was about an inch in diameter, perfect little circle where they cut off that freckle growth, mole, whatever we want to call it. And then she felt my armpit too, and she told me pretty much in the appointment that she was almost positive it was cancer, which it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I guess being a redhead, I always figured that at some point when I was older I would get some sort of skin cancer, because when I was younger I didn't really pay attention to the sunscreen stuff until I was probably in my early teens. I started really getting serious about wearing sun protective clothing and stuff. And, yeah. But she said the lump in the armpit was likely lymph nodes.
Right.
And so we were going to fast track everything.
So how old were you then?
23.
23.
So 2 weeks after that appointment, I was supposed to have a PET scan. And I thought that was kind of weird, like 2 weeks after they tell me I've likely got cancer. But went home for the weekend and talked to my parents about it.
Weird in what way? You think you'd be like...
I thought like it's going to be
let's go
today.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, it's just as soon as we can get you in. And then Monday morning, the dermatologist called back and she's like, hey, everything's back in. It is melanoma. So this is a little weird because right at the start of COVID, so I couldn't even go in for an appointment for that.
Right.
It was just a phone call, 9 a.m. in the morning, saying, hey man, you've got cancer.
That's crazy.
And so she kind of explained over the phone what was going to happen next. I would get that PET scan, and then we'd see if there was any other active cancer, and then we'd have a surgery to remove it.
Do you remember like the pit, like when you got that phone call, like the immediate thought in your head?
I guess I was kind of prepared for it from the weekend. I had 2 days at home with my parents to kind of talk it over and kind of figure out what I was going to do, and we were really just praying and hoping that it wasn't cancer.
Right.
But I had to come to the realization that it could be as well.
Right. So you were somewhat prepared. Somewhat
prepared. Was not prepared for kind of what kind of cancer it was.
Right.
I thought skin cancer, everybody can beat this. It's super treatable. It's easy. But when we talked on the phone that Monday, she said I had melanoma, which is the third type of skin cancer. There's basal cell, and then there's...
Is it squamous cell?
A squamous cell,
yeah.
And then melanoma. And so basal and squamous are easily removed just with like a freezing treatment and then, or a shave biopsy. But melanoma spreads, and that was what had happened in my armpit. That's why I had the lymph node that was inflamed. And so she said the soonest PET scan we could get you is in 2 weeks, and they kind of told me that I would be meeting with a surgeon afterwards. And then that was kind of stressful to me because I have this cancer that can spread, and it's already spread, and we're waiting 2 weeks before we're even going to see where it spreads. And so I called my mom and I was like, what do I do about this? And she said, well, you should call in and see if you can get that PET scan moved up. And so happens as I was looking up the number, I got a call from Gunderson, and it is the surgeon who picked up my case.
Right.
And she had just moved here from South Dakota, and she's like, you're getting a PET scan this afternoon, and we're doing the surgery on Friday.
Wow.
And so she was quite literally a lifesaver.
Right.
So we got the PET scan. We saw that we had lots of lymph nodes in this armpit.
See, what's interesting about that is there was no reason to delay it.
Yeah, there's no reason.
Like if you could get it that soon, you could have always got it that soon.
Yeah.
You could have made, you know what I mean?
And she had to like push for it, and not really sure the whole backstory behind why it would take so long otherwise, but
so they did the scan.
They did the scan, and
how does it? Is there a scan where you have to drink something, or so? How does it go exactly?
So the PET scan is actually something that I was pretty well prepared for because I was training here at the time, trying to follow the diet here at the time, and that's essentially the diet for the PET scan. You go 24 hours before your scan with no carbs, no sugars, high protein, lots of fluids.
Right.
Then you get in there that morning, and there's no food after midnight, regardless of when your scan is the next day. But then you sit in a room that there's no stimulation, and it's just a dark room. The one that I always sit in has a butterfly on the wall. That's it. And then they inject you with a radioactive tracer. And all that it is sugar.
Right.
That is got a radioactive signature to it. And so you sit there for an hour.
So why sugar?
Sugar because if you sit there for an hour and they inject you with sugar, sugar's going to go to your brain. It's going to go to any place that's rapidly growing or rapidly taking energy. So cancer.
Rapidly eating. And what does cancer cells eat?
Sugar.
Exactly. So they give you sugar because cancer is going to eat it first because it wants to grow. And that's how they can find the cancer
And that's
cells.
how it lights up.
Right. So it's such an important lesson because you say like sugar feeds cancer because it does.
Yeah, that's how we find it.
Right.
So at that point, we had a couple of lymph nodes here, one up underneath my clavicle, and then there was a spot in my ankle. The spot in my ankle's been there for a while, even after treatments and stuff. And so we met with a doctor that day.
What's their explanation how it goes from axilla ankle and skips so much in between? Or is there no explanation? I guess I don't know.
Melanoma spreads randomly. Typically, it started here and moves up into your lymph system, and then from your lymph system, it can be transferred anywhere in the body, really. Later, we found out that the spot in the ankle is just a non-cancerous tumor. So we biopsied it. It's fine. We're not doing anything about it, but we were just curious because it kept lighting up. So we had the surgery, and it's supposed to take like 1 to 2 hours. It took 5.
Right, and that's the scars from that surgery?
This scar, and then there's kind of a big armpit scar down here too. So we removed 25 lymph nodes, which is all the lymph nodes that they could find in the armpit. It's very similar to a breast cancer surgery.
Right.
But from the 25 that were removed, 5 of them were like black with cancer, and they were like matted together. Usually the lymph nodes are kind of separated, but with the cancer in them, they all just kind of matted together, and the doctor said it's pretty easy to see that those are cancerous.
Right.
So then I was in the hospital for the rest of that day and then the next day. It was super cool because the first time that I really woke up and was able to move, my nurses took me to the window, and I had a bunch of people from work, from Eupraxia, from home, that were all standing out on the top of the parking garage, you can understand? Right. Because I couldn't have any visitors.
Yeah, that was like peak COVID fear-mongering lockdown, right? So no one could come. That sucks.
Yeah, but it was super cool to see everybody there, and I can only stand for a couple of minutes, but it definitely kind of gave me a boost. But then after that, came home.
Man, it's just so just having that gave you a boost, right? Like it just shows the importance of human interaction and community and support. Because humans are pack animals, and the whole like isolating it's insane to me. Like it is so damaging at just a psychological level.
Yeah.
Which your thoughts affects your physiology for sure. Because that boost just, you know what I mean. Interesting. So the surgery, did they consider it successful?
They did. So there was one lymph node that we couldn't remove, but then they kind of gave me two options after that.
Why? Was it too close to us?
It's the one up underneath my clavicle.
Yeah.
And so in order for them to get that, they would have had to tear a lot of other stuff up and cut through nerves and tendons and stuff to get there.
Nice location.
And that just would have made my arm a lot less useful.
Right.
And so they gave me two options at that point. They said, we can treat this with radiation, or we can just jump right to the immunotherapy. And they kind of explained the benefits of radiation, the downfalls of radiation, but they said if I ever get cancer back in this arm, since I have no more lymph nodes, it's going to attach to the nerve. And they said that they've had that happen to people, and it's horrible because you can't take a nerve out and then still have feeling in your arm. So they said it's a very painful thing to do, so they suggested that I do the radiation. And so we did 30 cycles of radiation.
What is you said immunotherapy?
Yep.
I'm not familiar with that.
So immunotherapy is different from chemotherapy in the sense that we are trying to jack up my immune system to attack the cancer itself.
Okay.
And so there's a couple different types of that. There's intravenous stuff, but it basically just puts your immune system into hyperdrive or overdrive, and then your body will physically just attack the cancer because before it hasn't recognized it, and now that everything is on high alert, it recognizes pretty much everything. And that's kind of the top treatment for melanoma right now.
It's immune boosting.
Yep.
Okay, just a point on that. So two things here. Immune boosting, right? So strong immune system helps fight cancer. And sugar feeds cancer. And sugar suppresses your immune system, right? It's like, so how many things we do, and we do to, you know what I mean? Sugary drinks, sugary snacks, sugary foods, processed stuff that we give kids and whatever, that's a cancer feeding, immune suppressing thing. So this immune therapy is limit sugar, improve immune system. Yes? Oh, very interesting. All right, sorry, keep going.
And so we decided that we would start with radiation, and then we would go and start on the immunotherapy. But during that process, we got back a genetic test on my cancer. And one of the other things we look for in melanoma is what's called a BRAF mutation. And so cancer has a mutation, and if you have that mutation, it's kind of targetable. So it's called targeted immunotherapy.
Oh, okay.
And so the BRAF is actually a mutation that I had and that we could take pills for to target instead of doing the intravenous stuff to start. Because that's kind of like, as they described it to me, our ace in the hole. Like that's what works when nothing else works. So we finished up radiation. It was all localized just to my armpit. So skin was kind of falling off. It was super painful to like move the arm. But after a week or two afterwards, it was kind of healing back to normal, movable and stuff. So
you did, like, the idea behind radiation is to focus and to kill the cancer cells, but you kill stuff around it, right? There's collateral damage.
Yep.
Right, and that's why the skin cells and like faster growing cells, is it that are the first, or is it kind of everything?
So the skin is just the first line of defense,
right,
for that radiation. So it's just like I was giving myself a really bad sunburn under my armpit every day.
Oh.
And so...
and that's the feeling. There's a terrible sunburn that you just keep
pretty much.
Oh, gosh.
And so they had like a radiation relief cream, but it doesn't last forever. So,
right.
So like 2 weeks after the radiation, they just wanted to let my body heal before we started throwing drugs at it. And we started on the BRAF medications. And the first couple of days were okay, and then we kind of vamped up the medication. And my side effects got really bad. I was super nauseous, night sweats, sore, achy, and had some pretty severe headaches. And one of the things with melanoma is that it likes to go to the brain. So I was stage 3, and at stage 4 is when it's in the brain. And so after a week of that side effects, they told me to stop taking the meds on like a Monday, and then Friday we went in because I was still just miserable. And we just went to the walk-in because they said nothing else is open right now, so go there. And they gave me a CT scan, and then they scheduled a appointment for Monday morning. And the Monday morning appointment was to biopsy like a lump that I could feel on my left pec. So I was like, well, that's not great. And so we were doing it with the surgeon that originally performed my surgery. And we were going to do a brain MRI beforehand because they saw something on the CT scan, and they said we just want to double check everything in the brain, because the CT scan just shows it's not great for brain imaging to see what's really in there, but it gives them an idea. And what they could see were a couple places in the brain that didn't really light up like the brain should.
Right.
And that's what kind of told them, okay, we need to do an MRI first thing Monday morning. So poor Miranda took me to that MRI because my parents weren't able to get off of work in time. And so she came to the MRI at 6 in the morning, and then we went up to have that biopsy done. And the doctor walks in, and I'm fully expecting to just get the biopsy done because we're in a procedure room, there's scalpels everywhere, and didn't think anything of it. And she walks in and she's like, well, we're not going to be cutting anything today, and I've got some bad news, like really bad news. And so she sits down and she starts talking to us, and she's like, we've got 3 large tumors in the brain. For melanoma, they're called metastases or METs. So I had brain METs, which classified me as stage 4. And she was really good about her delivery and telling us, kind of what the future was going to look like. And then we got a knock on the door, and they said, radiation would like to see you right away. And she said, okay, well, we're going to finish up in here first. And then she apologized, and then like 30 seconds later, we get another knock on the door, and she's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
And we've got the 3 heads of Gunderson's brain surgery department at the door wanting to speak to me. And I'm like, this is a lot.
Right.
And so we finished talking to her, and then we went and talked to neurology, and they said, you've got 3 large tumors, and there's a couple different options. We're going to look to treat with radiation first, because for us right now, all of your tumors are under 3 centimeters, and we don't like to operate unless they're over 3. My biggest one was like 2.88 or 2.98, somewhere in there, so it's really close to being on the line. But they said if it comes to it, we'll be happy to remove 1 or 2 of them, but we want to treat with radiation first, because all of them were bleeding in the brain, so that's what was causing my headaches. And then we went down to radiation, and we're kind of sitting there, and that office. I'm still not freaking out yet.
Right.
Like, I'm like, okay, you know, we got a plan. We're going forward with it. Things will be fine. And we're talking to him, and he's kind of showing us pictures of the MRI. And he's like, so you got 3 large ones, and then you've got an uncountable amount of small ones. And he said, they're all bleeding. And he's like, do you want to know numbers on this kind of stuff? And I didn't really know what to say. I was just like, yeah, I guess. And he told me I had 6 months to live.
Oof.
And so at that point, I'm bawling, Miranda's bawling. Neither of us knew what to do.
Right.
Alyssa's at home, and we're engaged. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about my parents, and thinking about kind of the just morbidity side of everything.
In retrospect, do you wish you had not asked the timeline? Or no?
For some reasons, yes. For some reasons, no.
Right.
I mean, finding out that timeline definitely changed how I was living my life. But it also just really, really sucked.
Oh,
and it brought a ton of stress for the next 6 months.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. So, and how did it change how you're living your life?
It made everything much more important. So I called my parents, and they drove up, and then we left radiation that morning, and they said, you're going to come back this afternoon, and we're going to start our first whole brain radiation treatment.
Right.
And so went home, and I wasn't able to talk at that time. So Miranda came with me, and she sat down with Alyssa and kind of told her what was happening. And then Alyssa called her parents, and we were both a wreck that day. Like, there's just no good way to handle that news.
I can't imagine.
And so my parents were coming up, her parents were coming up. Miranda went home, and then she came back a little bit later because I was going to go back and start my brain radiation. So usually with whole brain, the max treatments is like 10 treatments. And we did 15. So it was every morning, and they would strap you down to a bed, and you get put in this big face mask. You can't move, see anything, do anything, and heaven forbid you have any sort of claustrophobia.
Right.
And then they would just radiate the brain, and I would drive back home. But it just made me so much more thankful for the days that Alyssa and I had together, and the stuff that we were able to do. And we decided to get married. We were going to push that off until fall of this year because we wanted to be able to invite everybody,
right.
And nobody was doing weddings last year because everybody was just freaked out about COVID. And then we moved in with Anthony and Miranda, and she was kind of our on-hands nurse if we needed one. And so we did our 15 treatments. I lost all my hair, and just kind of rocked the bald look for a while.
Yeah.
It's a good look.
Yeah.
But then we started on, we got a second opinion up at Mayo Clinic because they have kind of one of the world's renowned doctors in melanoma. And we had our first brain MRI after that, and we had tried the immunotherapy that was intravenously given. So it's supposed to boost my immune system, and what we found on that first scan afterwards was that everything had multiplied. So I had more brain tumors, and they were bigger, and so immediately we cut that treatment out, and we went to a different treatment.
So the theory or the thought was that therapy was actually accelerating the problem?
Yep, and apparently there's either two things that could have happened there. I could be one of the few people where instead of it helping your cancer, it grows your cancer. or the other theory can be that the first treatment you won't see any progress. You'll actually see a lack of progress and kind of a step back because your body is recognizing these things and the treatment really hasn't started working yet.
I see.
But because of the stage that I was at, we didn't want to continue with that, and so we switched to a different medication. We went back to targeting the BRAF mutation, but with a different set of pills, and that's the same pills that I'm still on today. And those seem to have really no side effects for me. Got to take them with food, but those are what we're still on, and those of what have been working. So all of my brain tumors are shrinking. The one that was underneath my clavicle is gone.
Awesome.
And their biggest concern is that there's nothing that transfers through the blood-brain barrier well, because our body is just designed not to allow anything else in there. It's kind of the sacred place outside of your other organs and stuff, but the brain especially, like, it's just a defense mechanism. And so this medication working is really, really fortunate. There's a lot of people that will take it and it won't cross the blood-brain barrier, and so either my brain is just not all that great, or I'm just very, very fortunate. So
so that 6-month opinion, one of the things you said, that was based on every age range, right? And you being a young man, you know what I mean, they could have maybe said for your age range, maybe not so bleak of a initial thing, possibly.
And there's a lot of people that are my age that will get melanoma, but they're usually catching it super, super early. It's just a skin biopsy, take it off, and then we're going to put you on this treatment. And a lot of times the more aggressive stages happen when people are in their older age.
I see.
And so as we get older, and a lot of times they said that people who are in my position are overweight, they don't take care of their bodies, they're
unhealthy.
Just unhealthy and older, and so that was kind of their explanation, was like, this is based off of an older population, so we have to look at this with a grain of salt and say there's every chance that we can beat this, and every chance that this prognosis is something that I can be kind of an anomaly with. And that's what's happened so far.
Yeah, which is amazing.
I mean, we're going on 9 or 10 months since that diagnosis,
and things are getting better and better each visit, which is awesome. So yeah, big questions that I have is, so you get this terrible, god awful, I mean, I just can't imagine. Like, how did the things you cared about change, the things you value change? Like, so many people they're so hung up on materials, right? Nice car, nice house, spend money on nice shit that doesn't matter. Did your perspective, like, how did that change?
It was weird. Everybody wanted to help in some way, but no one really knew how.
And with that, I mean, like, I want, it's like, from an outside, like, how do you ask, or what do you know what I mean? I was like, what do you say, what do you ask, you know what I mean? But keep going with your thought.
And I kind of got to the point where it's like, I don't really want any material things, like, I just want time. Because it's the one thing I can't buy. It's the one thing that they put a timeline on for me, and I'm like,
and the one thing people ridiculously take for granted.
Every day that we have, we always assume we've got another 60 or 70 years at this point. I never expected that my life would be given a timeline, and that it would be when I was so young. And so time became a huge thing, and I wanted to spend it with family.
And what did you want to do with that time?
So a lot of it was spending it with family. So pretty much every weekend, even now, Alyssa and I will still drive home to see our families. It's a 2-hour trip, but it's something that's super important to us. And we realize, like, we've only got so much time. And so we need to spend it with the people that we love, and spend it doing the things that we love. And so
So do more things that you love as opposed to trying to buy stupid shit.
Yeah. And I've been very fortunate with people giving and just outrageous generosity.
Right.
I was given a free hunt out in South Dakota.
Sweet.
Which was a dream.
Right.
And then a guy mounted my mule deer for free. And then a month later, I was given a free duck hunt in Oklahoma on a private marsh.
That had to not be bad.
It was not bad. And at the time, like, I was still taking all these pills, and we kind of saw that tumors were shrinking. Mm-hmm. And so we were just kind of living every day.
This is so you valued an experience, a hunt.
Yeah.
A hunt. Like if someone gave you a car, be like, what the shit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just experiences is what matters.
Experiences and memories.
Experiences and memories, and like it's just so damn. That's why it's so important, and it's just so unfortunate to me how many people don't get that. So we'll sacrifice time to work, to make money, to buy shit we don't need, like a car, a house we can't afford, fancy clothes, as opposed to maybe working less and taking the money we do have to go experience cool stuff that creates memories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that's what matters. Yes. Like,
yeah.
And I just wish more people would understand that, because it's just that's what matters. But keep going with your thoughts. Sorry for interrupting you.
No worries. And then we moved up our wedding, and we planned it in like 2 months, which is anyone that's ever had a wedding knows that planning a wedding in general, if you've got a year, is stressful.
Right.
And so planning it in 2 months was extra. And Alyssa killed it. She did pretty much all the planning.
Yeah.
Part of my brain radiation thing was like my memory was not good for a while.
Right.
And they've got me still taking brain medication for dementia patients.
Right.
Just to help my memory and just kind of revitalize those cells.
So that's why wife's great. Just tell me when to be there.
Exactly.
Take care of the rest. Yep. Just show up. Lay out my suit for me.
Yeah. But we were super fortunate. Everyone that came to the wedding was like really, really close friends and family. And they were all very respectful of kind of the time, because during all of this, my immune system was extremely compromised. And we just didn't want the reason that I would cut my time short to be from COVID.
Right.
And it's, everyone in our family was always super safe about it. My mom's a nurse, so she was cracking the whip on my dad.
Right.
And
I mean, that's the timing of this is insane, right? Where you have that and all this stuff, plus the peak of the COVID. It's just like, my Lord.
Yeah. And so we were just so fortunate that people could come out and still celebrate with us. And so we got married, and then we kind of just kept living life day by day. Every day we take for granted, because each day right now is a blessing.
Yeah.
Every day past that 6-month timeline, it's a battle for me to think about what I can do with my day instead of thinking about, could this be the day?
Right.
Or
so I was going to ask you, like, how your perception of time has changed, right? Because so much focus is like planning for retirement, and to me, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's good to plan ahead in a way because you don't want to be broke, but also like live. So like, how is your perception of time? Like, are you more present? Are you more, you know what I mean?
Definitely more present. And I guess a lot of it, I've had to do therapy, and my therapist has been a big help. And anyone that has like mental stuff going on, like, therapy is a great avenue. So is the gym. And that was a hard thing. Was for a long time there, I couldn't work out.
Right.
Like, my left arm was horrible, and I was on tons of steroids to reduce brain swelling, which would just, as much as
Not muscle building steroids.
Not muscle
the
building
opposite.
steroids, the opposite.
Right.
So it's just body draining
Mm-hmm.
and, super tired all the time. And so we just kept talking with the therapist and doing what we could. But it was just weird that we couldn't have any of those other avenues for kind of releasing the stress.
Yeah, it's people handle stress differently, right? And then therapy's different for me, movement. It's a necessity. So that would be really, really hard. And I'm an introvert, not very social dude, but even the isolation plus that's got to be tough. So it's super cool. You can move again and do all that stuff. Gratitude. I just don't think people like to bitch.
Yeah.
Right, and there's just so much to be grateful for. I'm assuming your gratitude has changed in certain ways.
Gratitude has definitely changed, and also my perception of how other people perceive things has changed.
How so?
It's very frustrating to see people taking things for granted and not realizing it, and wasting time on pointless things or stressing out about things that don't really matter. That was one of the biggest things that I had to work through, is being able to understand that other people can't have my perspective, or they choose not to.
Right.
And not getting just pissed off at them for it.
Right.
Because there was a lot of times with friends, with family, that it's why is this such a big deal to you right now? There's so many more important things that you could focus on.
Certain things they're worried about that really doesn't matter, and they're freaking out over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stuff that they can't control, something that's going to happen down the road. And it just really bugged me that we were trying to control that. We can only control what's happening today and how we're going to go into tomorrow.
Right. When people worry about shit they have no control over, it's easier said than done. But if you're worrying about something and you can do something about it, stop worrying and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're worrying about something you have no control over, don't worry. You know what I mean? You can't do it. One thing, the same note, I don't know if this is a good or bad thought, but for me, when I see a person in a wheelchair or someone who's handicapped, or for me to not use my body, I feel like I'm insulting every person that's disabled.
Sure.
Because you know what I mean? It's what a freaking blessing it is to have an able working body, and to not use it the most possible. I feel like I'm insulting so many people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, how you perspective, right? There's this quote comparison's the thief of joy, which I disagree. Depends what you compare to. So this past year I had hip surgery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Congenital defect, deformed hip. They go in, sucks. You know what I mean? But compared to what you went through, it's nothing. So there'd be times where I'd catch myself feeling sorry for myself. It's why do I have to? But it's the grand scheme of things, I'm so grateful that you're grateful for the medications. I'm so grateful for these surgeons.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's putting things in perspective. Just how you flip your mind can make you so much more happy or so much more miserable.
Yeah.
And your experience is just, fuck, man, I just learned a lot from it. So now you are, how many months you're that day where they told you 6 months, it's been how long since then?
We're pretty close to 9 or 10 months, I think. But I don't know, my brain's still not
Yeah.
still not all there. So it might be longer than that. I think actually we might be closer to a year. I want to say that the brain diagnosis happened in June or July, so
that's awesome.
we might be near that year mark.
And every scan's improving. And as far as the medications, is the goal at some point to be off those things?
It's kind of hard to say. They really don't know. Because like I said, most people at 6 months are getting put on hospice or
right.
Just getting off those meds. But I still take close to 28 pills a day.
Oh, wow.
So I got pills in the morning, pills at night,
Mm-hmm.
and They're just a monthly delivery subscription. So every month I get 180 new pills of each one. And
are you eating super clean and living clean? And
yep. So super grateful that we've been able to go back to the gym in person and just kind of get back into that routine. And then we've since moved out from Anthony and Miranda's house, but right before we moved out, we all decided that we were gonna really kind of commit to doing the Eupraxia diet again, and just because for the longest time I was like, I gotta cut out sugar, because the biggest thing that I learned from the PET scans was like how if I eat sugar, it's just going straight to my cancer,
right?
And that's not what I want. And so it's been pretty awesome. Just the progress that we've seen, and it's so nice having a group that we can do it with, because we'll still do dinners together with them, but we're all like-minded in what we eat now. So it's no longer, well, you know, you can't eat this or you can't eat this. It's just we all come together and we can all eat what we cook, because we cook what we can eat.
Right. You all cook good stuff. So 1% pots and pieced in, you got your healthy food.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just crazy how, you know, Alyssa's talked about how she feels so much less bloated throughout the month, and just from eating. And like, she works 12-hour shifts at Gunderson, so a lot of times it's hard for her to get to the gym, but even with that, just eating well and getting to the gym when she can, it's
a 12-hour nurse shift. That's plenty of working out, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's plenty of exercise in there. That's sort of on that note. I mean, it just drives me insane. At the fair yesterday, there's a kid in a stroller with a Gatorade and deep fried cheesy somethings, and it's just like people. You know, it's not the parents' fault. They're just. I don't think that we just aren't taught how bad that is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bad. And for me, I mean, the kid, there was no glow, there was no vibrance. It's just. It's so hard to see, but it's everywhere. You know what I mean? But I'm just so, I'm so glad you're doing good, because I heard about the rumor, and I'm like, okay, you know, rumors. How do you ask someone that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you say?
You call a guy and say, hey man, do you really have 6 months to live?
It's you know, and it's like, you know, it's. You don't know what to say, but I was just hoping, you know, one of my bad things is the treatments are, you know, the costs are outrageous, insane, and the whole purpose of insurance was it's a good in thought, like all of us, everybody chips in a little bit, and if a terrible thing happens to someone that's not your fault, there's a pool of money, covers it, you're good, you know what I mean? But so much insurance goes to people's diseases by choice, which the costs are insane, you know, but it's just sad we have to raise money, all this, and I just wanted you to have cool experiences.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just as many cool experiences. But dude, I appreciate the conversation. Like,
of course.
Big time. It helped me. You may not realize it, but helps me a lot. And hopefully it helps other people. Is there anything else you want to mention, or advice you could give, or perceptions, or like, you know, don't take time for granted. Focus on, you know what I mean?
Yeah. First of all, just to say thank you to everybody from Eupraxia again. Like, you guys were the first people to throw me a GoFundMe, and that helped so much with our initial medical costs, because it came out of nowhere. Thankfully, I'm still on my parents' insurance.
Right.
So my mom being a nurse, we have pretty good insurance.
Right.
But we still have a $10,000 deductible to meet, and I meet that in one appointment right now. And like, my pills are, for one bag of pills, I think it's over $45,000. And thankfully, insurance, once we hit that deductible, covers it. But it's scary to think what would happen if it didn't.
Right.
And it's, you know, we're so fortunate that people have been so generous.
$45,000. I mean, that just should not happen.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't. It's like criminally taking advantage of someone in a serious. Anyhow, it's a different conversation. No, that, and then I'm sorry to interrupt you, because that just makes my head want to explode.
Yeah, but otherwise, just living day by day. Like, control what you can control, and
Control what you can control, right?
And just love like there's no tomorrow.
Right.
You know, the people that mean the most to you, like, invest in those relationships, invest in that time that you have together, because you don't know when it's going to go away, or when they're going to go away, or when you're going to go away.
Right. Time and experiences, right?
Yeah.
Time and experiences. It is the most important thing. Sacrifice, consumables, the stupid shit we're constantly marketed to buy, which gives the illusion of happy, right? And time and experiences. I'd much rather drive a hoopty to go hang out with some people I want to hang out with than be stuck at home in a fancy ass car.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey man, I appreciate the hell out of your time, and hopefully, you know, they say knowledge is power. Not true. Knowledge that's applied is right, and you did amazing. Hopefully, someone watches this, like, it hits home and you freaking apply what he talked about and just spend more time on experiences, time with people you care about, live a good lifestyle, and freaking just be more grateful and appreciative, because that just makes you happier.
Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.